Ladies and gentlemen, Twice Abstracts here, back on the topic of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, the Seven Deadly Sins sequel series. This is chapter 249 titled Prayer. In this chapter, we see the main cast of characters get together and discuss Lancelot, their next steps, how they measure up, and where to go just in general from where they're at. So let's get into it. At the start of this chapter, we see some holy knights get off their, shifts and they're headed to the Boar Hat Tavern, get some eats after, the long shift. And it's there that we see that it's closed because that's where the main cast of characters, as I put it, is headed to have that meeting about what to do next, as I also mentioned. And from here, I like it. It's good to see because outside of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse, outside of the Knights of the Holy Grail, outside of the Seven Deadly Sins, and let's say like Hauser, Gil Thunder, the regular cast of Holy Knights, it's just good to see that there may be some characters like lower characters that don't necessarily get a name, but they just play a small part and just give a quick little dialogue that makes you feel like you're in a real world, like you're immersed in something. And, them saying that, oh, that's right, it's closed off for VIP people only. And, you've got the Grand Master in there and you've got all of these important characters in there. It's just a good thing to see, and it does a good job painting the picture, setting the scene. And that scene is a panel where you see Gawain, you see Hauser, you see Gil Thunder, you see Balin, the Knights of the Holy Grail, the Knights of the Apocalypse. You see the knights in there to protect them. The Nazians, the Donnies, the Ons. All of those characters are all in there to discuss what happened to Lancelot. And some are in disbelief. Some point out the contradiction that he was willing to sacrifice the entire world to save the one that he loves. And it's a contradiction that Bond would have made too, but that's neither here nor there at this moment. From here, they specify specifically that Lancelot did not actually attack Gawain or the others. Instead, Gawain says that he merely released all of the magical power that he had just pent up inside. And that's significant because he leveled everything when he did that. And that makes me question is they went out of the way, Suzuki goes out of the way to clarify that he didn't attack the Knights of the Apocalypse, even though by that point he was already underneath intense malice. So I personally assume two things here. First thing is that he didn't do so because there's still some feelings preventing him from killing the knights, the prophesized knights, the knights of the apocalypse, meaning that he has control. His goodness has some sort of ground left within him, and that's why he did not kill right then and there, which might become a problem for him later down the line. He's unable to kill the people who are there to put an end to him. The second thing is, and I think this is the more likely one, there are bigger fish to fry. The strongest character in Seven Deadly Sins right now would have to be, if it's not Lancelot, it's his father Bond. And we know that in one of Guinevere's, her dreams where she could see the future, she gets a glimpse of the future with no context. Lancelot is perceived to have killed Bond at some point in the future. And that would fit in perfectly with what we know now. He's evil. And if I think that Lancelot knows already that, without a doubt in his mind, that Bond is the strongest and he poses the biggest threat. Therefore, he must be the one to kill right away. And that's why he did not kill the Knights of the Apocalypse. And I think the only thing that you could say about that would be, well, even so, it would probably only take, one swing to kill the Knights of the Apocalypse. Because let's be honest here, the gap between Lancelot's strength and the other three, it's pretty wide. It's it's a crazy gap to bridge, say the least. Um, and the only rebuttal to that counter argument is, well, plot armor, of course, but that's not, that's just going down a rabbit hole, an unnecessary one at that. I truly believe that Bond is the next target, and I wouldn't be surprised in the next chapter if we see a fight between Bond and Lancelot, or maybe not even a fight. Bond is probably the type of character to let his son kill him to get to where he wants. You know that scene where Bond in the Seven Deadly Sins, where Bond thought that the only way to bring Elaine back was to kill Meliodas when Meliodas was trying to save Elizabeth. It might be something along those lines, except unlike fighting back, Bond might low key let himself die. So we'll see on that. But moving right along here, we have Tristan, who finally finds out what happens to his mother Elizabeth, and all Meliodas can say is, "I'm sorry, I couldn't protect your mom. She will likely never open her eyes again, and I live in a void all over again." So that begs the question: what is Meliodas's like fate? What's his fate, right? What's in store for his character? Does he still continue being the king? Does he still continue giving guidance? Does he find new hope outside of his loved one? This wouldn't be the first, second, third, 107th time that he's had to watch Elizabeth die. You think he'd be over it, but even then, that's kind of a tough thing to say. But he's been here before, and if there's one thing that we know with this series, it's that death is a funny thing in the Seven Deadly Sins, and especially in Four Knights of the Apocalypse. And I think that's what Suzuki is trying to get at here, because Tristan leaves without saying anything, and he questions Isolde, whom he is recently engaged to, if there's even a point in being with her, basically, because he, as an 18-year-old, doesn't understand that life has a natural progression. Everything that lives in this world also dies. And that's a real world thing, and maybe perhaps not a Seven Deadly Sins thing, but it sure seems like Suzuki is trying to make that a Seven Deadly Sins thing, because he's struggling with the fact that, why would I be with someone that makes living and dying worth doing if I'm going to lose those things anyways when death comes knocking at the door? And Isolde is the 18-year-old who maybe doesn't understand it, but she does know one thing. She loves Tristan so dearly that she is with him and on his side until death do them apart. She understands that one day she will not have Tristan, but in that time, that now and death, she is with Tristan, no questions asked. And she was willing to give up her life to Tristan's hand to prove so. And I think that's something that Tristan will come to remember in chapter 250. So, guys, we'll see what chapter 250 has in store for us. For now, I'm going to sit and ponder on this one, and we'll see what I can cook up as far as what chapter 250 might bring us, or anything that I might have missed. But for now, this is just my raw take, thoughts, opinions on chapter 249, Four Nights of the Apocalypse. Not necessarily like where the story is headed or where I think about these characters. I had the whole Deuterogonus phase with Lancelot. I don't know if that still might be true. He's obviously not the Dos Ex Machina character as he used to be anymore. Now he is the obstacle. But anyways, guys, if you like this type of content, a like and a subscribe will go a really long way. I'm new here, but I am dedicated to getting my opinions and getting some things that I think that the general community of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse is missing. It just brings some new flavor, to the atmosphere. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this chapter. Do you think that Bond is first order of business for Lancelot? Or do you think that it goes down a different way, perhaps? What do you think the fate of Meliodas will be? What do you think Meliodas does moving forward? Anyways, take care of yourselves.